On the textile floor, where thousands of threads run in perfect rhythm, one wrong step can change everything. Rows of spools feed endless threads into a warping machine. Workers move between them, adjusting, checking, keeping the process alive. It looks routine, constant motion, constant vigilance. Then it happens. A worker steps too close and loose material brushes the spinning drum. The machine grabs the fabric, dragging it into the rollers, and in seconds the floor's steady rhythm shatters into alarm. What seemed like routine handling suddenly exposes the danger of unguarded motion. Never, ever work near moving textile machinery without guarding and lockout. These machines don't pause, don't forgive. One slip, one loose thread, and entanglement happens faster than thought. A single step on the wrong surface turned an ordinary shift into a near disaster on the conveyor line. Inside a busy warehouse, conveyor belts stretched across the floor like arteries of constant motion. These machines are meant for boxes, not people. But when time is tight, shortcuts tempt workers into walking directly on the belts, using them like bridges. Two workers gave in to that shortcut. They stepped onto the moving belt, and as they crossed, the rolling surface shifted underfoot. One worker stumbled, his steps slipping toward the narrow gap where the conveyors met. In that instant, the shortcut revealed its hidden danger, a moving trap created by the relentless motion of the belts. Never ever stand on or cross an active conveyor belt. A shortcut that feels harmless is really an invitation for the machine to pull you in. A forklift raises its load on a busy street. Then, out of nowhere, a speeding motorcycle comes straight into its path. It was nighttime on a narrow roadside. A truck sat parked, stacked with massive wooden crates. A forklift operator worked carefully, lifting one load high into the air. Nearby, a few onlookers watched. At the same time, a motorcyclist sped toward the work zone, unaware of the hazard ahead. In a split second, the rider reached the forklift. With no space to stop, the motorcycle struck the load's edge, jolting off balance, and the roadside erupted into chaos. Forklifts and road traffic should never share the same space. When heavy equipment operates near public roads, the hazard extends far beyond the work zone. Always block off unloading areas, set clear warning signs, use spotters, and never allow live traffic to move through active forklift operations. A worker tries to wield a giant metal tank, but seconds later it suddenly erupts. In an open yard crowded with scrap and machinery, two rusted tanks stood side by side. Several workers gathered nearby as one man began welding across the tank's surface. To the eye, it looked like routine work. But deep inside, unseen vapors waited like a hidden fuse. As the torch burned, heat penetrated the tank wall. Trapped vapors inside suddenly ignited, pressure building faster than anyone could react. In an instant, the tank ruptured with explosive force, turning what seemed like solid steel into a hazard zone. Never, ever weld or cut on a tank unless it has been fully tested, cleaned, and certified gas-free. Even when they look empty, tanks can hide invisible fumes that ignite the instant heat touches them. In this security booth in Turkey, a simple electric heater turned into a dangerous reminder of how unforgiving electricity can be. The female guard was on her routine shift, sitting near a small electric heater to keep warm. The booth was cramped, with cables trailing across the floor and a metal door close by. Everything seemed normal until she decided to adjust the heater. As she adjusts the heater, the circuit shorts against the metal door, sending sparks and a sudden flash through the booth. Power flickers, alarms trip, and the heater shuts down mid-fault. A momentary surge that exposes how easily current can turn control into chaos. Never, ever handle powered electrical devices while your other hand is on a conductive surface. Electricity flows instantly, and even a small household heater can create a dangerous circuit. Always unplug before touching, moving, or repairing electrical equipment. In a crowded workshop, steam clouds the air, and in a split second, a worker standing near a pot of boiling water collapses. At the center of this workshop, a wide-open vat boils steadily, releasing waves of heat and thick steam that fog the air and dampen the ground. Workers move in and out, but no covers or guardrails separate them from the scalding liquid. One worker steps too close, the heat and steam clouding his senses. He wavers, losing balance near the vat, and the crew reacts instantly. In that moment, the hazard of open boiling liquid becomes clear. Routine movement suddenly exposes the danger of working without barriers. Open vats of boiling liquid are not just part of the job, they are constant hazards. Steam can weaken workers, slippery floors can cause sudden falls, and one moment of faintness is all it takes to trigger disaster. These vats must always be shielded with barriers, fitted with covers, and surrounded by safe access zones. In a small workshop, one mistake with the grinder turned control into chaos. It's late in the evening, and the workshop hums under dim lights. A worker stands by a surface grinder, adjusting the machine. This machine is powerful. Its grinding wheel is designed to remove hardened metal with precision, but precision depends on setup, handling, and respect for its limits. The operator moves casually, leaning close, confident in the familiarity of routine. The grinder is engaged, sparks expected, but what comes next is anything but routine. With a sudden crack, the grinding wheel shatters. In an instant, fragments scatter across the workshop, propelled outward by the machine's force. The controlled rhythm breaks down as the workspace fills with flying debris, a stark reminder of what happens when setup or shielding fails. Never ever operate a grinding machine without ensuring the wheel is properly mounted, tested, and shielded. A grinding wheel failure turns a precision tool into a projectile weapon. Every check matters. Pre-inspection prevents disaster. Shields and guards are not optional, they are survival. In an underground mine, one small mistake at the shaft gate turned routine work into a disaster. It was early morning in Zhuzhou, Hunan. Inside the fluorite mine, carts of material were being moved toward the shaft. The routine was simple. Push the cart, line it up with the cage, and send it upward. But this process depends on one thing, the lift cage being in the right place, with safety locks engaged. At 8:36 a.m., an operator pushed a heavy cart forward, but the cage wasn't in position, and the gate lock gave way. In seconds, the cart rolled into the open shaft space, exposing the full hazard of an unprotected drop. Mine shafts are unforgiving hazards. Never, ever push a cart until the cage is fully in place and secured. Safety doors and locking systems exist to stop human error from becoming fatal. In a workshop, an angle grinder suddenly went silent, but when power was restored, it kicked back with unexpected force. The worker was midway through cutting a heavy sheet, the grinder whining as it bit into the surface. Then, without warning, the tool went quiet. The plug had come loose. For a brief moment, the job paused, the grinder resting still. Determined to continue, he reached down to reconnect the cord, but the switch was still on. The instant electricity returned, the grinder jolted awake, spinning at full speed. What should have been a routine restart suddenly exposed the hazard of a live tool reactivating without warning. Never ever reconnect a power tool without checking that its switch is off. A grinder's saw or drill can jolt awake the second current flows, turning a small oversight into a dangerous surge. Inside a factory, one worker went to adjust materials in a press when the unexpected happened. The setting is a production floor filled with heavy machinery, conveyor systems, and giant reels of material. The worker, wearing protective gear, is inside the guarded area of a large industrial press. This press is designed to handle massive force, cycling with crushing precision. The environment is loud, fast, and leaves no margin for hesitation. As the worker adjusts material near the press, the machine cycles without warning. With no lockout-tagout in place, the moving parts engage while the worker is still within reach. What began as a routine adjustment suddenly exposes the full danger of bypassing critical safeguards. Never, ever enter the danger zone of a press or automated machine without following lockout-tagout procedures. The moment you trust a machine to stay still, you're betting against thousands of pounds of force that won't stop once it moves. High above the ground, one wrong move by a worker brings everything crashing down. At a building site, a worker attempts to carry a heavy air conditioning unit up a ladder. The setup is improvised. The ladder rests against the wall, supported by a scaffold that was never designed to handle both the worker and such a load. There's no safety harness, no securing ropes, only balance and hope holding the situation together. With the weight of the AC unit pressing forward, the ladder shifts under strain. The unstable scaffold can't support the load, and the setup tilts dangerously away from the wall. In seconds, balance is lost, and the entire system gives way, exposing how quickly an improvised method can fail. Never ever carry heavy loads on a ladder. Ladders are meant for climbing, not for transporting equipment. Without proper rigging, anchor points, and lifting methods, gravity always wins. Always use mechanical lifts, cranes, or rope systems to move equipment to heights. Secure ladders to prevent shifting, and wear fall protection when working above ground. In a machine shop, a rotating bar on a CNC lathe suddenly turns the workspace into a danger zone. We're inside a precision machining workshop. Operators are working at their stations, while one CNC lathe is running with a bar of metal extending far beyond its safe limit. Instead of being properly supported, the stock projects into the walkway, creating a silent but deadly hazard. As the spindle rotates, the overlong bar begins to flex and whip unpredictably. With each turn, it sweeps wider, striking the air with uncontrolled force. Loose objects rattle, paper scatter, and the hazard grows until the operator slams the emergency stop, bringing the danger to an end. Never, ever run a CNC or lathe with unsupported overlength stock. A spinning bar becomes a striking hazard that can whip with enormous force. Always use the right lathe, the right steady rest, and the correct bar length. Keep rotating parts out of walkways. And if danger erupts, don't hesitate. Slam the e-stop. In a small kitchen, a worker bends down to slide food trays inside an oven. Seconds later, the whole room fills with smoke in a violent blast. This isn't a massive industrial site. It's a compact kitchen setup, tight and crowded, every surface stacked with jars, cans, and equipment. The oven sits tucked under the counter, a common commercial unit designed for baking. The worker, focused on the tray of food in his hands, opens the oven door without hesitation. Nothing seems unusual, just another routine loading of baked goods. But here's the danger. Ovens that haven't been properly ventilated or checked can accumulate residual gas or superheated vapors inside. That invisible buildup can ignite the moment oxygen and flame meet, turning an ordinary door opening into a flash explosion. The worker crouches and slides the tray inside. In an instant, built-up vapors ignite, releasing a sudden shock of pressure. Smoke and heat rush outward, rattling pans and filling the confined space in seconds. What looked like a routine oven use reveals the hidden danger of unvented gas. Never, ever open or operate an oven without ensuring it's been properly ventilated, inspected, and free of gas buildup. Even the smallest leak or ignition source can trigger a blast in a confined unit. In a busy restaurant, one wrong move with live wires can turn routine work into a dangerous spark storm. Two workers are inside the dining area, one standing on a ladder, fixing wiring in the ceiling. Customers and co-workers watch casually, unaware of the hazard above their heads. The ceiling panel is open, exposing electrical components as the worker raises a tool toward the wiring. In a split second, a flash erupts from the ceiling. A surge of sparks showers downward, filling the space with sudden light and noise. The calm restaurant is jolted into alarm as the hazard reveals itself in an instant. Never ever work on live electrical systems without shutting off the power supply. Electricity is silent and invisible, but its release is sudden and unforgiving. In a dim workshop, the shadow of an excavator hangs above, but one wrong move turns the machine into a falling giant. Inside a repair bay, mechanics gather around an excavator stripped down for maintenance. The heavy boom arm and front section are raised, leaving tons of machinery suspended above the workers. Without warning, the suspended structure shifts. The excavator's boom slips free, and the heavy load drops onto the workshop floor. Metal stands topple as the impact reverberates through the bay, showing how unforgiving gravity can be when massive equipment isn't properly secured. Never ever stand or work beneath a suspended load. No matter how stable it looks, heavy machinery can shift, slip, or collapse without warning. Stabilize first, repair second. Always lock out, block out, and secure heavy components before working near them. A few minutes of preparation can prevent disaster when dealing with machines that weigh tons. On a busy work site, a crane lowers a heavy load, but right below it, someone stands still, unaware of the danger. The crew worked around steel beams and concrete blocks, machines moving non-stop. A crane operator guided a suspended load across the yard, but on the ground, one worker lingered directly in its path. The load kept lowering, steady and unstoppable, while the worker remained directly beneath it. Each second narrowed the margin of safety until the danger zone was undeniable. What seemed routine instantly revealed the full risk of standing under suspended weight. Never, ever stand under a suspended load. Cranes, chains, and slings can fail, and operators can't always see the ground. The space beneath a hoisted load is always the danger zone. Inside a textile factory, a worker pulls fabric toward a moving roller. Then the machine grips harder than expected. The floor is stacked with rolls of material. Workers move quickly between stations, handling sheets that slide toward powered rollers. These rollers are designed to grip fabric with force, but there's no guard, no stop bar, nothing between the operator's hands and the machine's jaws. As the worker feeds material forward, the fabric snags between the rollers. Instead of releasing, the system locks under load, drawing the sheet in faster with each rotation. The hum of production shifts to alarm as the rollers spin out of control, forcing an emergency stop before the fault spreads further. Keep hands clear of exposed rollers when feeding material. Rollers create one of the most deceptive hazards. Once something is drawn in, it doesn't come back out without intervention. Guards and emergency stops aren't extra features, they are essential controls. High above the ground, a worker steadies himself on a tall tower. Then the steel beneath him begins to twist. It's a towering communication structure, the kind that rises hundreds of feet into the sky. A technician has climbed to the top to perform routine maintenance. The frame sways gently in the wind, solid at first glance. But hidden deep within the joints and bolts, the tower carries unseen stress. As the worker adjusts his harness, the tower shifts under hidden strain. Metal creaks, bolts shear, and a lower beam slips out of alignment. The structure flexes under uneven load, forcing an immediate shutdown of the operation as crews move to stabilize the tower. Never, ever climb or work on a tower without confirming that it's reinforced, inspected, and properly anchored. A structure can look steady until one weak connection gives out. Regular inspections, safety lines, and strong engineering checks are what keep high places safe. Inside a warehouse in Brazil, workers were carrying on with routine tasks when the ground outside gave way to something far more dangerous. It was a normal evening shift. Workers moved between conveyor tables and equipment, focused on production. The warehouse looked ordinary. Bright lights overhead, machinery in place, and stacked supplies around the floor. But outside, heavy rains had been soaking the hillside, saturating the soil and building hidden pressure. Without warning, the hillside collapses, sending a surge of mud and water rushing toward the warehouse. The outer wall gives way as the flow pushes through, spreading fast across the floor. Workers react instantly, moving away from the flow and climbing to higher ground as alarms sound. In moments, routine work turns into an urgent evacuation. Never, ever underestimate the hidden danger of unstable terrain near work facilities. Landslides don't give warnings. They strike suddenly, and once they start, there's no stopping their momentum. A simple rule: when heavy rains threaten slopes near work sites, operations must pause and workers must be evacuated. On a rooftop pour, workers trusted the frame beneath them until the surface suddenly gave way. It was a busy morning at a residential build. A crew stood shoulder to shoulder, guiding heavy concrete hoses across the rooftop formwork. Below, wooden supports strained under the growing weight. But from above, the team pressed on, focused on finishing the pour. Then, without warning, the structure gave out. A section of formwork cracked, sending boards and wet concrete crashing downward. In moments, what looked like a solid surface revealed its weakness, as the slab gave way and the floor below was exposed to the collapse. Concrete is unforgiving. If formwork isn't designed and braced to carry its full weight, collapse can happen in an instant. Every pour must begin with inspection, precise load calculations, reinforcement checks, and shoring strong enough to withstand the pressure. Inside a busy factory floor, a single decision near a massive press machine nearly turns catastrophic. Among the largest machines in this workshop is a powerful hydraulic press. its mechanical jaws designed to crush and mold metal with immense force. This press runs continuously, its cycle automatic, and its warning lights blinking as it operates. Nearby, one worker notices an issue with the product inside. Instead of halting the operation, he decides to intervene directly. He leans into the machine, believing he has time to adjust what's inside before the cycle resets. Without warning, the press reactivates, its cycle resuming mid-check. The ram descends through its path before the system halts under strain, alarms blaring across the floor. A moment of routine turns into a powerful lesson in lockout safety. Never, ever climb inside or reach into a press machine while it is powered on. The energy and force it releases cannot be stopped once engaged, and no reaction time is fast enough to escape. Lock it out. Power it down. Only then should troubleshooting begin. On the steel yard floor, one suspended beam swings in the wrong direction, and in seconds, the entire load becomes a hazard. Inside a busy fabrication shop, long steel beams are stacked in rows, and overhead cranes move them into place. Workers in safety vests stand nearby, guiding the operation, trusting the weight above to remain under control. As the crane shifts a heavy beam, it swings wide. Instead of staying clear, one worker remains in the fall zone. The suspended steel collides with a nearby stack, jolting another load loose. In an instant, multiple beams shift, spreading instability across the yard. What began as a controlled lift escalates into an uncontrolled chain reaction of moving steel. Never, ever stand beneath or near suspended loads. Gravity and momentum will always win, and no reaction time is fast enough to escape once they shift. Always establish a clear exclusion zone. Never guide heavy loads by hand, and trust distance, not reflexes, for safety. On a crowded street, a crane truck begins to lift a machine weighing several tons, and in seconds, control is lost. It's a routine industrial move. A CNC machine, the kind used for precision metalwork, is being transferred from one location to another. Workers position it carefully, straps are tightened, and the crane truck begins its slow, deliberate lift. The neighborhood looks calm, with cars parked nearby and people watching. But the calmness hides the danger of what's about to happen. As the crane arm swings the heavy machine, the balance shifts off-center, the straps strain, slipping under uneven weight. In a split second, the load tilts and slams against its rigging, shaking the ground and scattering nearby workers. Never, ever stand beneath or close to a suspended load, because once gravity takes control, no one has the strength to stop it. Heavy machinery moves require exclusion zones, proper rigging checks, and stable ground support. What looks routine can fail in seconds. Keep clear, keep cautious, and treat every lift as if failure is possible. A cement mixer begins to move forward, while a worker unknowingly steps right into its path. The construction site is alive with motion. Among the chaos, a cement mixer truck prepares to roll ahead, its heavy drum turning slowly. From the driver's seat, visibility is limited, especially in the blind zone directly in front of the cab. At the same moment, a worker on foot walks across the same lane, unaware that he's entering a danger zone that the driver cannot see. The driver eases the cement mixer forward, unaware of someone just ahead in the blind zone. The truck's weight and slow braking response leave no room for instant stopping. The mixer grinds to a halt only after rolling several feet, proving how momentum can turn a moment of inattention into a near disaster. Never, ever walk in front of a moving vehicle or step into its blind spot. Drivers can't react to what they can't see, and machines of this size don't stop on command. Make eye contact before crossing, wait for a signal, and always respect the space-heavy vehicles need to move safely. In a steel plant, one wrong surge turned molten power into a storm of fire. Inside a busy foundry, workers stand near the casting bay, watching the massive machinery that controls the flow of molten metal. The air is thick with heat, and the hum of equipment fills the space. To them, it's another routine shift, just iron, fire, and the rhythm of the furnace. The molten stream flows, controlled, contained, and precise. But then, the control system falters, and the steady stream erupts into a sudden spray of molten metal. Sparks and fire scatter across the floor as glowing droplets rain outward, forcing the entire bay to halt operations. The eruption turns the casting zone into a hazard area until the system can be brought back under control. Never ever remain within the danger radius of molten metal equipment during active pouring or maintenance. Even the smallest malfunction can transform a controlled process into a deadly explosion zone. On a narrow worksite, a team unloads large glass panes when suddenly the glass shatters. Beside a parked truck, two workers struggled with oversized glass sheets. The space was tight, leaving little room to move or adjust. Each man gripped one side of the pane, focused on balance, but unaware that the load was becoming unstable. Without warning, the pane cracked. The sudden break shifted the weight violently, knocking the balance off-center. In seconds, the oversized glass slipped from control, crashing down and turning routine unloading into chaos. Never ever handle glass without proper supports and protective systems. Glass is heavy, brittle, and unforgiving. Once it breaks, it becomes a swinging, falling hazard. Always use suction lifters, clamps, protective gloves, and keep unloading areas clear and controlled. On a factory floor in Vietnam, a single conveyor belt turns from routine operation into a dangerous trap in seconds. This was a typical production day in a facility where raw materials were fed through conveyors for processing. Workers stood close to the moving line, guiding and adjusting the flow. The hum of machinery filled the air, steady and mechanical, giving the impression of control. But what looked ordinary was hiding a critical oversight: unguarded rollers and exposed pinch points that were left unprotected. As the worker leans closer to guide the material, the belt catches part of the feed and surges unexpectedly. The rollers pull the load off balance, shaking the line and jamming the system. A task that began as routine turns critical in seconds as alarms trigger and workers rush to hit the emergency stop, just beyond reach. Never ever work near exposed conveyor belts without guards and emergency stops within immediate reach. A conveyor doesn't just move materials, it can trap and drag anything that makes contact with it. Safety barriers and guards aren't optional, they're life-saving shields. Emergency shutoffs must be installed where workers can reach them instantly. On a construction site, a massive steel vessel begins to lift, and then gravity takes control. The team is raising a huge cylindrical tank, several tons of steel balanced on ropes, and a loader. It's meant to be a controlled lift, but the setup is uneven and unguarded. Workers stand close, unaware that the balance is already failing. As the lift continues, tension builds across the rigging. The ropes strain under uneven load until the balance shifts. In a single motion, the steel vessel tilts, dropping just enough to jolt the frame and scatter debris across the site. The lift halts instantly, the team moving to secure the area before the situation worsens. Never ever lift or position heavy vessels without certified rigging and clear exclusion zones. Makeshift setups may hold for a moment, but once the balance breaks, the fall is unstoppable. Respect gravity, stay clear of the drop zone, and use the right equipment every time. At this loading bay, everything was going fine until a particular package fell to the ground. It was January 2nd, 2022. Workers were busy unloading boxes from a red delivery truck outside a warehouse. The packages looked ordinary, stacked one after another. No one suspected that one of them contained a dangerous surprise: fireworks packed in unsafe conditions. As one worker set a box down, a small spark triggered inside the load. In seconds, the quiet warehouse filled with light and smoke as materials ignited unexpectedly. The crew reacted instantly, moving clear as the fire spread outward. What started as a routine unload became a powerful reminder of how one mislabeled package can change everything. Never ever handle fireworks or any hazardous materials without proper labeling, secure packaging, and strict safety protocols. Safety isn't just about how carefully you work, it's about knowing what you're working with. Always check manifests, inspect packages, and follow handling rules for dangerous goods. High above a building site, a heavy pallet is lifted into place until suddenly it twists in midair and spills its load. It was a busy day on a high-rise project. Cranes were hoisting pallet after pallet of construction material into the upper floors. On one level, a worker leaned forward at the edge, reaching out to help guide the delivery in. The pallet hovered just inches away, suspended by creaking straps, swaying lightly in the wind. For a moment, everything looked routine, until the balance gave way. The pallet jerked sideways, twisting violently in the air. The shift tore bags loose, sending material spilling away from the lift. The swinging load veered toward the edge, a stark reminder of how quickly suspended cargo can shift from routine to hazardous. Never, ever stand beneath or beside a suspended load. Cranes, straps, and pallets are unpredictable. No hands can control their swing. The safe way is always with distance. Use taglines, barriers, or mechanical guides, never by leaning out on the edge. Materials can be replaced. A life cannot. Stay clear of suspended loads, secure yourself with harnesses when near edges, and let proper rigging and guiding tools do the work. One bad swing should never leave workers exposed. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.